the most of our time together. And the focus today is really around the quality of being resourceful as a great support worker. So in conversation with Katie, we'll just pull out some of that, and we'll encourage you to ask questions. As you know, it is about linking people across the United Kingdom. And what's lovely is we have got people today with us, and those that have shown interest that haven't quite connected with us, that haven't been vocal on Slack. And it's all about how we find different ways of connecting that we find comfortable. We know some people aren't happy to write on Slack, and we hope more and more people will. But just so you know, 107 people are signed up on Slack, and 76 are actively watching and listening to what's going on. And I know in the background through conversations that people are they're watching the newsreel, they're seeing comments being made, and they're talking back in organisations. So I think we're at the start of something really exciting, and this is just the first webinar of many to come. So I'm Sally from Paradigm, and you met Lucy and I at the launch. That's it. So I'm really going to very quickly now hand over to Katie Gibson-Peacock. And when Lucy and I were thinking about the Great Support Movement, we were determined that we wanted to have people, invite people to engage, people who are both known in the sector of social care, but also what I would call the hidden gems. And Katie, you're not completely hidden, are you? But you're someone who just gets on with stuff in your local community and makes things happen. And it was people like you we were really passionate about engaging. So I'm absolutely thrilled that you're our first guest to host the webinar. And I suppose what I know is just, I'm knowing Katie for a number of years now, is that Katie is incredibly resourceful, but we could easily ask Katie to talk about venturing or supporting My Loving or connecting or any of those things. So we're going to have a conversation today. The picture you see on your screen, you may recognise the postcard at the Great Support Movement launch, and it is a picture of, you can't really see him, but it's wonderful Gareth. Katie's involved in directly supporting. And just a quote at the bottom, working with Gareth is amazing. It's all about Gareth. Knowing him and having a support team wanting to be with him enables Gareth to have an ordinary life. And I think that picture, which is slightly quirky and odd and different and out there, summarises really Katie's approach to what she's doing with her life. It's not just a job. So this is, really formal. All I said to Katie, and we haven't even practiced this, I'm going to ask Katie a little bit about who she is, who you are, Katie. We'll ask you about how you got to where you are and what you do now, why you do it. Okay. But also to give us some real examples of your motto, how you bring your motto to life. Your motto being, where there's a will, there's a way, yeah? So Katie, just tell us about who you are. Where are you? Where are you sitting? Who are you?
Hi. Well, yes, I'm Katie, and I'm up here in North Yorkshire, rainy North Yorkshire. It's usually rainy up in the Pennines. It really is fabulous to be here today. I am out there, but I'm not very good at I don't feel all that comfortable about being seen as somebody that's kind of, heading things up. So, I find technology and being on the screen a bit difficult, which is a bit surprising considering we're always out and doing loads of stuff. But I'd like to tell you a bit about what I'm doing now and how I got here. I'm a mum of 2 young adults. And I've worked with people for as long as I can remember, from my first job ever. I've worked with children, I've worked with adults who have learning difficulties and fairly complex disorders, and I'm still doing that. I've worked in training organisations, I've worked in large organisations, managing teams. I've been a registered home manager once upon a time. But I guess my passion is people and connecting, and I really have this great belief that together we really are better and we can make anything happen. And when I think about resourcefulness, I'd like people to think about it not just at work, within your support hours or whatever, 9 to 5 or 2 till 10 or whatever it is, but in life, because really when we're working with people, we need to draw on all of our resourcefulness and all of the people around us, so that there's something about, it's not what you know, but who you know, and bringing those people around that can really help provide great support for the people that we're actually getting paid to work with. So it was lovely to see Gareth on the postcard. So I'll just tell you how I know Gareth. Several years, 16, 17 years ago, my son was a teenager then, and I worked 9 to 5 working in a training organisation, and Josh became ill and we didn't know what was going on for him. He had brain scans and various things, and I couldn't work, and he had a year off school, but I couldn't work and look after him at the same time. So I decided I need to get a job working in support work, working nights, so that I could be around during the day. And that is where I met Gareth. I worked at a small care home, and Gareth had recently moved there. When I met Gareth, I was introduced to him as somebody who can't communicate. And, you know, I'd just like to say that Gareth is not only can he communicate, he's actually a teacher in communication. He's one of the greatest teachers I've met. And it's been such a great privilege to be able to help him, you know, get out there, have his voice heard, but also, you know, really for him to help and encourage other people. So I worked with Gareth in this care home for about 12 months as Josh was recovering. And Gareth came as a package with his elderly mum, Mitch, who sadly she died about 18 months ago. But she was 80 when I met her, and she was a fabulous, fabulous woman. But Gareth and Mitch were a terrible duo. It was Gareth and Mitch against the world. And Gareth's dad had died some years before, and his brother had been tragically killed in a car accident. So it was just the two of them. Mitch thought that Gareth was settled for life in this lovely care home. But unfortunately, over time, it was decided that this home was going to close. So Gareth was just going to be moved somewhere in North Yorkshire without very much consultation, well, without any consultation really. You know, the motto, where there's a will, there's a way, came in then, because we just thought this is just not on, it can't happen. Gareth has, you know, such complex support needs and communication differences. How can he start again, you know, somewhere else? With his family, again, the resourcefulness with Mitch and another lady, her family, we decided that we were going to, you know, make some really positive changes. It did involve a High Court hearing, but and I won't go into all of that detail, but following that, Gareth was able to, we were able to keep the care home open long enough for Gareth to find somewhere to live in the local community that he'd grown to love. And for the last 10 years, Gareth has lived in this bungalow. It's an ordinary bungalow that you and I might rent in North Yorkshire. And he's been supported by his fabulous team of personal assistants. So going back to how I was involved, the care home closed. I'd moved on. Josh was better, so I could go back to working, you know, in training. But I kept in touch with Gareth and his mum. And what I did was voluntarily set up and manage a team of PAs, and we managed to get Gareth a direct payment. He was the first person in North Yorkshire to get a direct payment for so many hours, 24/7, and that's how it's continued for the last 10 years. So I did this voluntarily on top of my full-time job for 4 years, and kind of managed the team within, you know, lunch times and, you know, after work and so on, and we got together, you know, evenings and weekends. So I never lost touch, and I always worked hands-on, you know, with Gareth. And I think that's a really critical thing to remember, that, you know, when we distance ourselves so much from people, when we stop kind of being there on a day-to-day basis, we do lose something. You know, when we're just kind of managing situations, we do lose that human connection, really, and it's important to be there. So this setting for Gareth has worked out absolutely brilliantly. He now is supported to employ, you know, 10 fabulous PAs. He was supported to attend the Be Free Festival last year, which is where the photograph was taken. And you know, Gareth has gone from a person who was hidden away and who was seen as so challenging in many, many ways to, being a leading light. He's out there on the Paradigm postcard now, which is just wonderful, and it's so encouraging for him and people in a similar situation, but also for his team, for the PAs who, that quote came from Carla, who works with Gareth. She's worked with him for about 3 years now. And again, she's had experience of working in organisations, larger organisations, and she just has never been happier. So that's how I know Gareth, and that's how I, work with him now. And I think, I really do want to stress to people here today, but, people on Slack, using Slack, that, Gareth's mum used to say, he's not everybody's cup of tea. And, believe me, he really isn't everybody's cup of tea. He's not even my cup of tea some of the time, but, I love him dearly, but he puts me through my paces. So Gareth is somebody with very complex, communication needs, and very complex support, health and social care needs. And I just feel that, and actually some family members have contacted me recently, say, we see Gareth out and about having such a great life, and with respect, our son or daughter, they don't have such complex support needs. How can we make it happen for them? If Gareth can have this great life, how can people who don't have so many challenges have an equally great life? What can we do? So thinking about, being resourceful, it's, how do we make these things happen? And I think there is a bit of magic, but it's more about, being human and connecting with people, and never missing an opportunity to connect, kind of always being aware of, where you are, and just noticing around you who's about and who could you enroll to kind of get involved and get stuck in. Most of Gareth's PAs haven't worked in the care setting in the past, and some have, but most of them haven't. And it's about and they would never have known this job existed until they saw us out and about. It's kind of, how can we, let people know that, A, this is a job, but also this is a person who would really value your friendship and really value being connected with you. An example I can give you is that one night I was in hospital with Gareth's friend Veronica, and the porter was taking us down for X-ray, and this guy was just fabulous. I thought, what do you do? How can we get you? And it turned out that he'd just done 1 degree, Luca, his name, and he was kind of portering between jobs, and just through chatting, down from the bed to the corridor, down the corridor to X-ray, we discovered that actually Luca was definitely somebody we wanted to be around. He'd had a little bit of experience of working with people with additional support needs, and he decided that he would accept this offer to come for a cup of tea and to meet us and so on. And anyway, cutting a long story short, he ended up working with us over weekends and so on, until he went off to do his medical degree. And he went off to Glasgow to do his medical degree, but he remained working with us for 1 weekend every month. That was his job. He paid his way through university for his 2nd degree. And fast forwarding a couple of years later, Veronica was in hospital in Bradford, and I arrived, and I could hear this guy saying, "Where's the manager? Where's the manager?" And it turned out that Luca was the doctor. Mm-hmm. So Luca he kind of grown, he cut his teeth working with us in a support setting, went on and did his medical degree, and he was actually the doctor treating Veronica in time. But he knew that she just wouldn't, we would be there, all of those years later, we would still be there with her. So it's about kind of seeing the qualities in people and thinking, right, how can we, hook you in, and how can we, involve you in our lives and in the day-to-day life of the people that we love and care about, Gareth and Veronica.
I'm going to butt in, Katie, because I think you're mentioning so much that's really important. And I suppose I'm listening for resourcefulness in a range of ways, isn't it? And I've heard that, you met a young man who you were told he couldn't communicate. you've discovered he's a teacher. So I'm curious to know what it was you and your colleagues, the people who got to know Gareth, did. So was it about having a specific professional skill, or was it something different? That belief in him and his ability. I think that's the first bit for me. I'd just like to know a bit more about in terms of resources, what you did to discover his communication skills and his teaching ability.
Okay.
Something else as well about, you may not need to speak to this much, but you had a knowledge of the system, as I call it. So knowing that direct payments are available, you're able to free Gareth to explore different opportunities. And where does resources fit into that? And the other thing is about, it's more about the community bit, but also, I suppose, I don't know if people could know what it is as a supervisor, manager, team member that you do to encourage people to discover who Gareth is, to understand the system and maximise its benefits for Gareth, and to connect with community.
Yes. Well, I think first of all, it's about being with the person, you know, and modelling and demonstrating about being with that person. Chris, who is one of our wonderful PAs, when he first met Gareth, he was a waiter and he was a hairdresser prior to meeting Gareth and working with us. When he first met Gareth, he was really frightened of him, and you know, that's not unusual. You know, Gareth is a person who is not always able to control his movements, and he doesn't use many words to speak, so can quite often be frustrated, and he can be loud and you know, a bit scary and off-putting at times. So it's about being there and just showing that humanness, really. So sitting with the person, really getting to know that person, and I can't stress that enough. It really is about that connection. Whenever we don't advertise for workers, people find us, and again, it's through being out there and spending that, people seeing us spending that time with Gareth. It really is about sitting down and, you know, blowing in Gareth's ears and seeing how he changes and seeing his smile and building on that, and again, showing people that what this means, what this could mean. Yeah, it's pleasurable. Gareth's happy. He likes it. You know, how can we build on that? Yeah.
And that's the stuff that's so important, that many support workers and direct support staff have told us that that's what's under threat, because there isn't a lot of time. So it's almost saying that risk of let's just be busy with the person rather than just be with them and explore that. And that's part of the challenge, isn't it? So it's developing great support.
It's crucial. It really is crucial. To me, there's no point in doing all the other stuff. There's no point in, you know, kind of rushing around and being busy. And yeah, of course, you know, lots of things make the world go around, but, you know, including the cleaning and the, you know, cooking and the paying the bills and so on. But for someone like Gareth, that, and you know, we're often taught about people need to lead an independent life and be independent, but that independence is about having, you know, independence of choice and having independence of, you know, how we communicate and so on. So until you've got that kind of connection, I wouldn't even bother trying anything else. Yeah. You know, it really is about having that connection.
It's the real foundation, isn't it?
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. And that connection has to be two-way. You know, Gareth and Veronica, they've had years of being supported by people that don't even like them. You know, they've both had institutional care. You know, Gareth from the age of 12 has lived in one care setting or another, and Veronica was, you know, from 4 years old until she was 40, lived in a large hospital. So, you know, again, with the best will in the world, the people working with them couldn't possibly provide really great, couldn't possibly, you know, adequate support at times, never mind great support, because the system just was not set up for them to do that. So we have to take it right back to being with people, you know, to actually listening in with all of our senses, you know, not just with our ears, but listening with all of our senses and watching and seeing how, you know, Gareth responds when people come into the room and so on. I just jotted a note down earlier about a time when Gareth had an appointment with the speech and language therapist and the physio, and we were looking at, you know, as I was saying, Gareth has quite complex support needs. And we sang all our way through that appointment. We sang, we didn't sing to Gareth, we weren't singing songs, we were singing things like this. is, how do we get Gareth to eat his dinner? So the whole consultation was in song, because Gareth could cope with the song, but he couldn't cope with the words. So the speech and language therapist and the physio, myself, we sat and had the whole meeting in song. And and this is the stuff that you really have to do, because without that, to me, there's no point in doing the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. So freeing the personal assistant to explore, to discover who Gareth is, to try things out, and that's being resourceful. So it's blowing. You mentioned blowing in his ear and stuff, and that worry that some people have, saying that's a bit too personal. But it's only through exploring with a person, isn't it, that we can develop the relationship that's right for them and use the resources we have within ourselves, let alone the community. But we're going to run out of time because of our trouble connecting today. But can you tell us a bit more about community and how Gareth is absolutely not just present in the community, he is part of his community.
He's a community leader, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about how that works as well. I've met Gareth at B3 and things, and he is someone that you would, if you were to generalise, people say, people would walk away from that sort of person, wouldn't they? The community almost in places isn't ready. So how have you and your PAs, Gareth's PAs, managed to achieve that?
Well, again, there's something about the PAs being given permission to, be resourceful themselves, to be all of those things, imaginative and creative and so on. I think sometimes people struggle with that. Am I allowed to do this? So to start with, I gave permission. Do all this crazy stuff and just see what happens. Gareth, previously, as I said, lived in a care home, so he never had people walking past the window. People never saw him. He was only out and about in the community when he was taken somewhere. One of the things that soon after Gareth moved was that he was, Gareth uses a wheelchair outside, so where he was being wheeled around, and he has very clear kind of ideas of where he wants to be. He didn't like to stop. And one day, it became a routine that he went a different route, okay? And so the team had changed their path for whatever reason, I can't recall. One day I was washing up in Gareth's kitchen, and this chap hobbled up across the road. He was on crutches, and he was waving his crutch in the air at me. And I thought, what's going on? What's this about? I went outside. He said, "Oh, I've just come to see out laddies." So lad was Gareth, who's my age. He's 50, in his 50s. "I've just come to see out laddies." He says, "I've not seen him for a while." And again, this chap had hobbled about half a mile actually to come and find Gareth. So he was just wanting to check that he was okay. And again, there's something there about, Gareth. It doesn't matter how many, where the CQC or how many checks are done. Gareth is safer in the community. The neighbours can hear when Gareth's upset, but they can also hear when his team are soothing him, when they're singing to him. He's much safer where he is than being in that regulated care home on the hill where he was.
Well, he's missed if he's not there, isn't he?
He's missed, absolutely missed.
That awful thing he's being invisible. He's visible, and he's missed if he's not physically there with people.
Absolutely. And again, it's like he's been excluded by. He has a great love of music, but couldn't get into kind of nightclubs and so on. And the only thing available was a kind of youth club type environment, which, isn't appropriate for, well, certainly not for Gareth. So what we did as a team, we saved up and we bought some equipment, some PA equipment and disco equipment, and we set up a club night. So Gareth hosted this club night, and it's been going for about 4 years now. So Gareth has, he to start with, he invited people. There's about 40 people come once a month now, and we have themes and all sorts of things. But the team we all taught ourselves how to use the equipment. We've got DJ Candy Pop who came down to E3 last year. But the guy that's doing the DJing at the moment, he's 14. It's Carlos, so the families are involved, and he just thinks it's wonderful that he can help. He can use his skills to help other people have a great time, and that came about through Gareth's love of music. And we needed to find somewhere for Gareth to you know, to go and enjoy that.
And it's hosted in the community again, isn't it, where Gareth's known, and it's something that people go to in the community.
Oh, absolutely. It's open to everyone. It's held, I mean, we've had various venues, but at the moment it's at one of the hotels in Skipton, and it's open to everyone. It's, you know, inclusive. It's not for people with disabilities. To be truly honest, you know, most people there do have a disability or are connected to someone who has a disability, but, you know, we are constantly building on that. Yeah, there was something that popped into my head then to tell you about that. But yeah, so it is absolutely in the heart of the community. And we do, you know, Gareth is supported to run a come dine with us once a month. And again, so it's like people are, you know, lonely and isolated behind their lives, you know, and they only have the paid support that's in their lives. So how, you know, what can we do to actually encourage people to eat together? You know, it's great, isn't it, when you eat together, you get together with a group of friends or a family, and we set up a come dine with us event once a month. Now Gareth, and that's where people come together, they prepare the food, they cook together, they eat together, clean up together. But Gareth couldn't do all that, so he just kind of wheels in, he's kind of the head of the table, and he comes when it's all ready, you know, but that's about him, how can he be involved in it? How can he, you know, at a level that he can cope with? So yeah, and
brilliant.
Yeah, what else have I got down here for?
Well, I'm going to sort of just summarise a little bit if I can, and then
there's just one other thing that I wanted to just quickly tell you about a time when. So we don't have. Gareth has, you know, X number of hours a week, so which covers 24/7 support. We don't have a budget for training. I know that obviously resources are very tight, but we've had team meetings in the swimming pool. So we've kind of killed as many birds with one stone. So this was a session for Gareth to go swimming, an opportunity for the team to come together, to meet up together, but also, you know, have a training session together of the things that Gareth likes, where he's up to, because obviously Gareth loves to keep us on our toes, and something that is, you know, absolutely must happen, you know, on the pain of death, will suddenly just disappear, and he brings something else in for us to kind of learn about and make sure happens. So again, it's kind of thinking about how you can make the most of every minute of support. You know, as I say, team meetings in the swimming pool. So yeah, go on. You wanted to?
Well, I was just going to give other people a chance to come in, ask questions, clarify, share thoughts, really. But I suppose what I've heard is that you, for personal situations, you were working in a setting that wasn't at all personal, where Gareth was, institution basically, and Veronica, and you creatively found ways of supporting him to not be sent to a place that would have done him no good, really. Yeah. And then knowing that once you had the bungalow, what you had to do with people around Gareth was help him create a life that was his, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
As part of the community. At the time, there wasn't lots of money. There was some 24/7 funding, but actually, you know, so it was being created using your community connections, using your belief in Gareth and the personal assistance you recruited with Gareth, I know, that really connected with him, even though you don't always like him all the time, which is pretty ordinary. And to move forward, and I think that's really important. And now Gareth is living a life where he truly is part of his community, and I don't think you ever stop learning. And I think you're constantly looking at opportunities, and him and his PAs around him as well. So I think that's so important. I think has anybody out there? I don't know if Joe and Roxana are still there. Are you still there? I think we've lost them. But Joe, Claire, Lucy, Antilly, Petra. Any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas?
I've got something to say.
Go on, Joe.
Which, do you want Joe or?
Joe Claire, I think that was Joe.
Okay. Yeah, I was struck very much, Katie, by by the whole story, but particularly the phrase "making the most of every minute" of support. And but by contrast, as you know, I'm sure, when you work in an organisation and you're trying to do support, trying to keep all of that noise and that paper out of the way of support is probably one of the biggest tasks. And I must say that listening to you makes me feel great about what's possible, but also a bit depressed about if you like, the state of support from organisations, including from my own organisation. So a question to you really, given the constraints you know that we're under, and yes, there's a case for us winning the war about those constraints, but given that situation at the moment, how do you think we could be more resourceful than we currently are?
Okay, I think one of the really important things to do, Jo, is to help people develop a circle of support, a circle of friends. So again, that will often come from yourself or the people who are employed to start with, because very often they're the only people that, the people we support are connected with. So to help people develop their own circle of support and friends, what that will do is, again, just bring richness to people. So we can't stretch the money any further than we are doing, really. People can only work so many hours. People have only got so much resolve. So we need to be able to share that out. And there's nothing more beautiful than, that natural support. And so I think that is a really important thing to try and do if you can. One of the things that we often, when we're working in an organisation, have to rely on is the DBS checks and so on. And we think, all right, we've got the DBS check, that person's fine, they're cleared, But, to me, and I've said this for years, on training and so on, what that DBS check means is that person hasn't been, I don't want to depress people, but that person hasn't been caught doing anything. It doesn't mean that that person is sound, and but people are inherently good, and one of the things that gets in the way of building natural support is the red tape of the DBS check. So I would always say, don't just rely on DBS for your paid staff. You must go with your gut feeling, but go with that gut feeling for when you're trying to involve and include other members of the community. In our experience, we have not. We've had workers that we've had disciplinary things in the past. I experienced that. But in terms of the general public and community members, there's not been an issue. And there's something about, I think sometimes we're kind of hesitant and we wait to be asked in, and we wait to be welcomed in. And I think once people are given, again, it comes down to permission. It's not my permission, I'm not in charge, but somebody somewhere has to step up and say, come in, this is what we do, let me introduce you to Gareth or whoever it might be, and you kind of take that responsibility. Somebody has to do that. And once people are welcomed in, it just goes from strength to strength, and now thinking about, going back to, I mentioned Luca, who's now the doctor, people have got really great professional careers, and they started working with Gareth in Gareth's bungalow and in his home setting, and they say, I will never forget what Gareth has taught me. I can deal with any challenge because Gareth has taught me to, be patient and be kind and resourceful. So I think start by inviting people in, start by welcoming people in. That one of my challenges was going to be to organise something, to help people organise a community event where, it could be anything, not just a coffee morning, but a picnic or something, and just involve people who are around you. I think that is the way forward, just involving people from the community. There's a game that I can send to Sally, which is came from Nurture Development. It's called We Can. So it's kind of looking around you to think, right, who do we know that can? Who do we know that has this skill or that skill or this gift? And how do we tap into them and bring them in and use them as a resource? Because we can't be all things to all people all of the time. I know we're pretty super women here, but, we do need help from other people. And again, another philosophy is about, we don't have to do it all ourselves. Who can we bring in to help that and to help, move our plans forward, but also to help develop bigger circles for the people that we are thinking about. And not
really, yeah. So you're really talking about just expanding people's relationships into the world, natural world, so it's not reliant on the paid support, which is limited.
Yeah.
We also know, we were talking before, Katie, and Joe's working on this already, about the fact that the paperwork and the systems are there to be questioned and reviewed and refined, as Joe Clare's trying to do, I know. Get rid of the crap that gets in the way that we don't need to do. But we know we can't change that tomorrow, so we need to work within that to follow the big rules that we're guided by whilst we're working to change that, don't we?
Yeah,
but the
absolutely.
only way to make an impact maybe now is to expand the people involved in a person's life. And like you, I've been involved in a few circles, and, you know, I'm just constantly amazed at what's possible. But it's how you create the space in an organisation and the belief that that's possible, isn't it? And that's the challenge Joe and other organisations have, isn't it? So
it is.
I'm going to move. Any other comments or questions from anybody sitting there?
Did that help, Joe? Did that answer?
Yes, that's great. I'd be really interested in the game that you referred to.
Yeah, I can send that to Sally. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll put it on Slack. I'll send it out.
Just another thing about how we can help this. Another lady who came to Nicola, who came to Be Free last year. So I don't formally support Nicola. I'm not paid to support her. I had a message on Facebook from someone a couple of years ago saying, "Oh, do you organise events for?" I thought, well, we could do. You know, we didn't. We just kind of organised things with and for Gareth. I thought, well, we could do. Why not? You know, yeah. So we kind of said yes. And the change in Nicola's life has just been incredible. But one of the things that Nicola, she has a very limited amount of support. But she's very skilled at ironing. So, you know, we didn't have enough time to iron Gareth's clothes. You know, we're always kind of looking for how we can, you know, get the most out of every minute. So what we decided to do was invite Nicola to volunteer and to be, you know, more of a formal part of Gareth's life. So every Monday, Nicola volunteers with Gareth, and she does his ironing. So this is a day that she would either be stuck at home on her own or, you know, doing something that she wasn't. And another thing about Nicola, she was doing a voluntary job. She loves children, but and she was working at a local toddler group. But it turned out when you kind of dig a little bit and unpick it, what her role there was making the drinks. And I thought, bloody hell, she doesn't even see the kids. You know, she wants to go there because she loves the kids. So once we found that out, you know, I was doing some babysitting, so I invited her to join me babysitting for one of the PAs, one of Gareth's PAs. So again, it's kind of looking at how we can, you know, what can we do and what can we offer and what can we give and what can people, you know, how can we help people to, you know, to share their gifts and their passions as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's community development stuff, isn't it? It's saying this isn't abusing people. This is saying share your talents in the community and you'll get something back in return, whether that's a time from somebody or whether that. And it's important we don't get too hung up between the difference between being part of the community and offering your gifts and talents, doing an unpaid role as a volunteer, having work experience, having a paid job. There are places for all of them, aren't there? And
absolutely.
It's about that's the thing. So
yeah, again, Gareth, you know, with his car, he has a wheelchair accessible vehicle, and one of his neighbours had an injury, and that he'd been stuck at home. So, you know, when I heard this, I thought, well, I'm sure Gareth would give you a lift, you know, because Gareth, one of the things about Gareth, when he's in the car or in his wheelchair, he will not stop. He will not stop. Yeah. He doesn't want to stop. He loves, and I think there's some.
I'll send people the film you sent us, The Ordinary Life of Gareth.
Oh yes, do.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, Gareth could offer this guy a lift, and you know, and it's just great that it's Gareth's car. We are encouraging and enabling him to be able to be a good neighbour, and you know, we would all do that. So why can't Gareth use his resources to help? Again, you know, I'm sure that there might be some zealot somewhere that thinks, that's Gareth petrol, you know, but it creates a bigger, you know, greater, stronger community, and people are going to be looking out for Gareth. Absolutely. And again, it's another opportunity for people to know that, you know, Gareth isn't this scary person, you know, he's wonderful, you know, and he's got so much to give.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I could go on forever about this kind of stuff, but I know.
I think we're going to, because it's 2 o'clock and we started late, people have that's probably the end of lunch break, if anyone ever gets a lunch break usually, but you know, let's pretend we do get lunch breaks, okay? Yeah. But Lucy, Tilly, anything? Petra, you're okay there? Yeah?
Yes, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and for me, it's interesting. I mean, I've worked in, personal care in the past, a long time ago, but, in all different manners of support work. But, what I do now, even there, I have to be resourceful, you see.
Yeah.
Because, I, for instance, quite often, if people are referred to us, they have a certain, some of them have an idea of what they would like to do. And I find quite often that it is at the lower end, it's kind of something they feel they can do, but it's kind of, there's no challenge in it. So, for instance, cleaning or stock, shelf stocking, that sort of thing. And I'm always trying to encourage them, we do this occasional profile, the skills they've already got. But I look at everything. I look at, are they isolated, if they got a social network, do they need some training so that they can actually aspire to something a bit higher up, and so I've got to look at all those things as well all the time. There's many more things, but it is all about being resourceful and connecting people, isn't it? I mean, I totally agree with that.
It is, and again, just quickly, people do get I've got very mixed feelings about this. There was a resource centre about 10 miles away from here, which was closing at Christmas, and good, from my point of view. But the people that were attending there were obviously really worried. They were having a service cut and so on. And one of the things that they'd worked on for about 10 years was a magazine called The Gazette. And I thought, well, it can't be that hard to run a magazine, and I'm sure we can make something happen. Because one of the things that has happened from Gareth is we've set up a community group called Exclusively Inclusive, and I thought, well, we'll say we can help with that magazine. And it's actually now, because I don't know if you can see that, this is our 3rd edition, and it's I had very mixed feelings because to me, it wasn't a lot of work, but people lived for this magazine. I thought, bloody hell, they're living, this is somebody's life, and without that magazine, they were lost. It's like, it just didn't. It's great that that the people who are involved, we've opened it up and we've got more people involved in this. I think it's great that people are committed to it and are involved, and they're writing their articles and that they have a voice. But the worrying thing for me is that was their life, and without that, what did they have? So I've got kind of mixed feelings there. It's like we have a duty to make things happen, as we would for anyone. Gareth actually features in. There's Gareth there. Gareth features in this one, and you'll see that little bird box there. That one of his PAs, when they were leaving, they built him that bird box. And this year, after 5 years, it's the first time it's had a bird in there. But it was Gareth's next door neighbour's granddaughter that spotted it. And so it was great that she was able to tell her granddad, and he was able to tell us as we were hanging the washing out. And we were able to see the bird, take a photo, print something off, give it to the granddaughter from Gareth. Again, it's not from me. Yeah, I took the photo, I did the printing, but it's always from Gareth. And I think when you think about the jobs, as you were saying, Petra, the kind of typical things with the cleaning tables and so on, it isn't enough. We have got to find other ways for people to be involved, and using everybody has gifts and skills and talents, and
yes,
we just have to take time to find what they are,
yes.
and to find what they are and be able to help them with that.
I've got a quick example actually. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's fine. 3 examples. I need to wrap up. People probably needing to go soon. So go for it.
Okay, this will be very fast. So, I've supported this lady. She's in her 30s. She's got learning disability and mental health issues. She's got an 8-year-old son, lives with her son and her partner. When she got referred to me, all she said was she wants to work on a skill. Now, we haven't been able to put a CV together because there was nothing to put on a CV. So it was quite, at first looked very difficult. However, we then looked at volunteering because then, eventually from volunteering, we can create a CV if it all goes well. And unbelievably, within a week of supporting her, she had 2 offers. I helped her fill in applications for charity shops locally. And in one, she is now 3 months on. She's started with both of them, just doing a day each. She preferred one to the other, and she's now starting a retail qualification. And last week I saw her, and she was so happy to work on the skill.
Brilliant.
For the first time, they were showing her how to work, and she was just like, I'm so happy. And additionally, she wanted to do, learn, train a bit more on, learn a bit more on spelling and writing and what have you, and math. And so I'm also in touch with a local organization who provided specifically for learning disability. So, hopefully she'll be starting some of that as well soon. And so, yes, she's upping her hours to up to 16 hours so that she can get the qualification. That's the requirement. So it's an NVQ in place in the charity shop, supported by the staff, and it is absolutely fantastic.
Great.
So,
That's
resourcefulness.
Yes, and we all start somewhere. Sally, I did just want to say one thing about something that I think we do need to be very aware of. First of all, we can't pay people to care, so it wouldn't matter if that hourly rate was, £8.50 or £250 an hour. The people aren't going to care if they don't care. It doesn't matter how much we pay them. And the other thing is, whilst we're on this journey to kind of free people and help people to, live great lives, we are working within policies and procedures, and I think it's really important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that we have to remember that we want to stay, both physically safe, so when we're supporting people, and that person to be supported, safely, employably safe and legally safe, so when we're talking about doing, being innovative and resourceful, we can't just say, up yours to the policies and procedures. We have to, use our resourcefulness to work and our charms to work to help free people, but stay safe and keep people safe as well.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
And that really brings back to me the one thing is get to know the person inside and out, believe in their ability and their potential, as you did with Gareth. Use the resources we have within social care for the funding, get that right, and make sure we advocate to get the best we can. But no, that isn't the total of somebody's life. That actually, if we believe in community, if we look for natural connections and start to remove some of the things in the system that get in the way of that very carefully, dismantle and remove things that get in the way, we can actually support people to live good lives in a way that actually really is the best possible for them. And actually, in terms of great support, makes the job much more enjoyable. It is about relationship, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
It's about the give and take, and it's allowing people to have those relationships so they feel valued in their great support roles as well. So thank you so much, Katie. I think that's brilliant. We have gone over time because we started late.
Yeah.
So, but we're learning, everybody, so that's wonderful. So thank you so much for being with us.